In the depths of winter in 1868, the Colorado Rockies were a fierce testament to the raw power of nature. This was a place where only the resilient survived, where the howl of the wind echoed the unresolved struggles of the frontier. The snow swirled in an unrelenting dance, sculpting the landscape into a plumed wilderness, beautiful yet deceptive. It was within this chaos that fate intervened, casting a peculiar shadow on an otherwise ordinary day. Clad in layers of wool and leather, a lone cowboy trudged through the blizzard, determination etched into every line of his weathered face. Let's call him Jack Patterson, a man whose reputation stretched across the frontier as a brave and judicious individual. Born with the spirit of adventure and the burden of solitude, he was the quintessential wanderer, seeking neither fortune nor fame, but driven by the simple love of the open range. The wind whipped furiously against him, but Jack pushed forward, each step measured and cautious. Out in these expanses, a wrong turn could be a man's last, swallowed by nature's indifferent vastness. Then, through the snow's veil, he noticed something amiss. A faint outline, unusual amidst the winter whites, drew him closer despite nature's fury. There, tethered to nothing but the harsh elements, was a young Apache woman. Her figure slumped, yet she stood defiant against the wicked cold. Her hands and feet were bound, ominously hinting at a narrative of brutality. Jack's eyes narrowed, heart clenching with the injustice that had left her at the mercy of this relentless storm. Her capture was not just the result of tribal conflict, but the simmering tensions that defined this land. Jack approached cautiously, as if intruding upon a sacred tablet. As he freed her from her binds, the woman met his gaze, her eyes dark as storm clouds, yet filled with a light that seemed to challenge the darkness surrounding them. Despite the cold, there was a warmth in her eyes that hinted at stories untold, a love, forbidden and profound, etched into her heart and soul. "Name's Jack," he said, his voice gruff from the cold, and perhaps a touch moved by the sheer fortitude of the woman before him. Her reply was almost lost to the wind, but he caught it. Nailin. The name resonated with an earthy elegance, a fitting title for a woman of such resilience. They exchanged no further words, for none were needed. In the silence that followed, Jack recognized that his journey had irrevocably altered. He felt the weight of responsibility settle upon his shoulders, a bond forged not by choice but by necessity. The storm showed no sign of relenting, its fury mounting with each passing moment. Jack, aware of the urgency, set about constructing a makeshift shelter, utilizing his surroundings as skill honed from years of eking a living from the land. It was a rough sanctuary, an igloo-like structure crafted from compacted snow and fortified by fallen branches. Within this refuge, the howling winds were muffled, and for the first time since he'd laid eyes on her, Jack allowed himself a moment to breathe. Nailin huddled close, her body shivering from the cold's relentless assault. Jack offered his coat, the heavy fabric draping over her slight frame. It was a gesture of kindness devoid of expectation, yet she accepted it with a nod of gratitude that bespoke her inner strength. The night sprawled ahead, long and uncertain. They sat in a silence that was strangely comforting, punctuated by the storm's distant lament. Who was this woman? What force had brought their paths to intersect within the midst of this desolate snowstorm? Jack pondered these questions, his gaze lingering on the flicker of determination that played across Nailin's eyes. She, aware of his scrutiny, straightened, defying the fatigue that threatened to overtake her. It was a silent promise exchanged between them, a vow, born of adversity, where survival was both the goal and the catalyst. As the hours stretched on, warming them more than the meager protection of their icy shelter, were the shared stories and the silence that spoke volumes, about lives marked by solitude and struggle. They were two souls caught within the crossroads of destiny, strangers yet partners in an impromptu alliance that defied the harshness of their while outside, the storm raged. Within their fragile haven, a new storm was set to brew, a tempest of passion and conflict, with implications that would ripple beyond the snow-draped landscape. In this unforgiving realm, Jack and Nailin were not mere individuals, but symbols of a complex era. Their unfolding story, a microcosm of the larger world in turmoil. Little did they realize, the white expanse around them was not just their battlefield, but the stage set for a tale as old as time, one of survival, courage, and the quietly transformative power of unexpected love. As they braced themselves for the uncertainty of the coming dawn, they knew this was only the beginning. In the heart of the storm, amidst the desolation and the cold, They had discovered the first spark of something infinitely warmer, fire that promised to rage, even against the bitterest of blizzards. The storm raged through the mountain pass, an unforgiving maelstrom that swallowed the world in white. Each gust of wind was a savage whip, lashing at the boulders and trees with a fury that left even the hardiest of nature's elements bent and broken. But the storm was not the only force at work amid the relentless blizzard. Some say Mother Nature tests us in our darkest hours, and it was in this crucible that the lone cowboy emerged, a silhouette against the swirling snow. His name was James Callahan, a drifter of sorts, molded by the frontier and the scars it left on his soul. His horse, old and wise to the hardships of the trail, labored through the snow, each step heavy with the burden of survival. James's eyes, narrowed to slits to guard against the cutting wind, scanned the ghostly landscape. It was then, almost by fate, that he stumbled upon her. The woman lay half-buried beneath the snow, her dark hair a stark contrast against the pure white. She was bound at the wrists, the ropes digging into skin rubbed raw by the cold. As he dismounted, the bitter cold nipped at James's fingers, already numb as he fumbled with the icy knots. "Let's get you out of here," he muttered, more to himself than to her. His voice, roughened by years of shouting over the roar of cattle drives and outlaw shootouts, seemed out of place in the hushed violence of the blizzard. Her eyes opened, obsidian mirrors reflecting the storm's fury. There was a moment fleeting as the snap of a gunshot when their gazes locked. Her lips trembled, whether from cold or fear he could not tell, but she nodded, a silent plea that needed no words. James worked quickly, his fingers fumbling but determined. The ropes fell away, and she drew her hands to her chest, rubbing warmth back into her limbs. Words were superfluous between them at this moment. Survival was the immediate need. Together, they pressed on, James leading the way, the woman following close behind. Her name was Ayanna, as he came to learn, and she moved with a grace that belied the gravity of her plight. Her contrasting skin and dress a mixture of traditional Apache garments and the rugged attire needed for winter survivals, poked tales of her own born from conflict and harmony. A short while later, they sought refuge under an overhang of rock. The storm's wrath somewhat diminished within its protective embrace. James handed over his spare blanket, watching as Ayanna wrapped it around her shoulders, teeth chattering despite her apparent resilience. "Thank you," she whispered, the first words she'd spoken, a feather on the howling wind. Her voice was like the gentle crackle of a hearth fire, and it stirred something within him, a protective instinct, yes, but something more profound as well. "Who did this to you?" he asked finally, although the harsh edges of the question were softened by genuine concern. She hesitated, looking away to the swirling snow beyond. "My own," she replied softly, the words carrying a weight of sorrow and resignation. "They could not accept my love with a white settler, could not see beyond the color of skin." James nodded, understanding all too well the rigid boundaries of a world divided by race and creed. They sat in silence for a time, the world encapsulated by the storm's relentless embrace of purgatory, where nothing existed but survival and the burgeoning connection between them. He offered her jerky he kept for hard times, watching as she took it with a gratitude that humbled him. They ate together, the rhythm of their chewing a strange synchronization that spoke of companionship already formed. As the storm lessened its grip and the world began to re-emerge from its snow-blown obliteration, James knew the danger was not over neither for him nor for Ayanna. Yet in the quiet moments, as they huddled together for warmth, he found a burgeoning promise, a path that defied the harsh laws of both the mountains and society. Ayanna looked up at him, her eyes no longer filled with just the fury of the storm, but with something warm, a glimmer of trust and a touch of hope. James knew then that he had not just set her free from her physical bonds, but perhaps they had found in each other a chance for something greater, bold defiance of fate as cruel machinations. The storm would pass, as all storms eventually did, but the bond forged amidst its fury would endure, stronger than any chain. They had discovered one another in the tempest, and as their eyes met in mutual understanding, the seeds of a new story took root, a story of love and defiance, of courage and hope against a backdrop of snow and destiny. As night fell upon the unforgiving wilderness, the cowboy and the rescued Apache woman found themselves in a fragile alliance, driven together by forces beyond their control. The air was thick with the bite of winter, as snowflakes danced wildly, a testament to the storm's unyielding fury. Despite the chaos around them, The pair managed to seek shelter in a unique formation, a small cave, half buried by the snow, which the cowboy quickly reshaped into a makeshift igloo. Inside, the claustrophobic space felt worlds away from the storm's relentless howl. The cowboy threw more wood on a struggling fire, cupping his hands over its feeble flames. Its flickering light painted their faces in shades of gold and shadow, an intimate dance of warmth against the cold that prowled just outside their fragile haven. She was called Aina. Her name meant eternal blossom, a tribute to strength and resilience, even amid adversity. Yet, as she sat opposite the cowboy, shivering in her thin deerskin clothing, her resilience faltered. The cowboy, a man of few words, removed his worn leather coat and gently placed it around her shoulders. His kindness was met with a hesitant nod of gratitude, their verbal communication sparse due to language barriers, but rich in expression and shared glances. The cowboy, known simply as Luke, had lived a life carved by the edge of survival. His eyes, grey and sharp like the storm-clouded sky, met hers with understanding. They were two souls adrift in a world that had been unkind. As the fire crackled, their silences spoke volumes. Aina revealed through tentative words and expressive gestures the tale of her love, irreversibly forbidden, with a white settler who had sought peace between their peoples. Her tribe's disapproval was unyielding, leading her to this perilous exile. But solace was short-lived. The sound of distant hooves broke the illusion of security, a brutal reminder that they were not alone. A rogue band of outlaws, braving the storm in pursuit of easy spoils, approached. Their leader, notorious across the frontier, was a man named Gradia, figure whose cruelty was whispered about in the midnight corridors of taverns and sheriff's offices. The gang was relentless in its pursuit of plunder, their reputations built on the ruins of shattered lives. Luke and Aina shared a tense look, instincts aligning without the need for words. They moved efficiently, obscuring the igloo's entrance with snow and stones to avoid detection. Trapped by the howling storm and the ominous threat of the outlaws, their sanctuary had become a bastion they must defend. The tension inside their snowy fortress was palpable, matched by the storm's crescendo outside. Through the small opening they had left, Luke watched as shadows past Grady's men were close, probing the darkness with predatory intent. It wouldn't be long before they were discovered. As minutes stretched into eternity, Luke turned to Aina. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but beneath it lay something far more potent: determination. He held out a battered revolver, a tangible symbol of trust. Aina hesitated before grasping it, understanding the gravity of the action. Their eyes locked, communicating strategy and solidarity. Despite the odds, they chose to stand together. Then, the silence shattered. A gang member stumbled upon their refuge. Luke and Aina sprang into action, leveraging every inch of their confined space to their advantage. The battle was fierce and chaotic, each moment charged with the urgency of survival. They fought with synchronized grace, years of instincts honed by necessity guiding them. Grady, realizing their resistance, advanced with a chilling smile, confident in his numbers. But the storm that had drawn the gang here was also their foe. Visibility was poor, and confusion reigned under its icy veil. Luke and Aina used the tempest to their advantage, luring their assailants into disarray. In the thick of the struggle, sinew clashing against will, something remarkable occurred. Between deflecting their attackers and guarding each other's backs, they found their spirits intertwined, not merely allies in peril, but partners born of shared trial. By the time the storm began to wane, Luke and Aina stood triumphant against the invading chaos, the snow around their fortress bearing witness to their defiance. The outlaws, rattled and demoralized, retreated into the shadows from whence they came, leaving the pair victorious in the quiet aftermath. The battle for survival would continue their journey. But in this snowbound haven, hearts had thawed and paths irrevocably changed. Love, unspoken yet profoundly felt, had settled amidst the carnage, a seed planted in soil nourished by survival and hope, promising something vibrant against the backdrop of oppressive winter. As dawn teased the horizon, they lingered, sharing the warmth of their newfound bandar glow to carry them through whatever lay ahead. The snowstorm howled around their fragile shelter, a relentless beast clawing at the walls of their makeshift igloo. Inside, the air was tense with more than just the chill of the night. The cowboy, scarred and rugged, sat across from the Apache bride, their breaths mingling in the cold space between them. Each slight noise from the storm was an echo of the danger that loomed just beyond their fragile dome of snow. The lawless gang, known throughout the territory for their brutality, was huddled nearby, their presence as menacing as the blizzard outside. The cowboy's name was Sam, a man whose past was as tumultuous as the frontier he now roamed. His face was a testament to countless battles, both physical and emotional. As he crouched there, in the flickering light of their modest fire, his gaze met that of the young Apache woman, Lu Yu. Her dark eyes, fierce and unyielding, held stories of their own tales of resilience, of forbidden love, and of an unyielding spirit that refused to be broken by the binds of cultural prohibitions. Lu Yu had never imagined her life would lead to such a harsh crossroads. Raised in her tribe, with traditions that stretched back through the ages, she had nonetheless found herself drawn to something different, something forbidden. Her heart had been captured by a white man, a tender connection that her people could neither understand nor accept. Now, amid the raging storm, she found herself bound together in this delicate alliance with another outsider, seeking refuge from a world that seemed determined to cast them aside. The wind outside screeched, an ever-present reminder of the danger they faced, yet it was the murmurs and occasional laughter of the gang that truly sent chills down their spines. Sam tightened his grip on his rifle, his mind running through the limited options at their disposal. He had no illusions about the men outside. It was a predator, skilled and ruthless. They had been forced to share this sanctuary of ice, not out of inclination but necessity, and it was only a matter of time before tensions exploded. "Listen," Sam finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "They won't stay quiet for long. When the time comes, we need to be ready." Lu Yu nodded, understanding without the need for many words. Her hands moved with a quiet grace, checking the weapons. They had salvaged a revolver and a hunting knife, each item carrying the weight of their survival. The snow, which had been their enemy, now became their ally, offering some measure of isolation and a chance to plan. As the night wore on, the tension within their icy shelter grew heavier. The gang, restless and agitated, began to argue amongst themselves, their voices rising above the storm. Sam and Lu Yu exchanged glances. This discord might be their only chance. Every sound, every shift in the tone of the voices outside was analyzed, the unspoken communication between them honed by necessity. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from outside, the unmistakable sound of a scuffle breaking out among the outlaws. Shouts and curses filled the frigid air, echoing through the night. The moment had arrived, unexpected yet desperately needed. Sam motioned to Lu Yu, his plan concise and urgent. They would use the chaos to their advantage, slipping out and making a stand if forced, or escaping into the storm's embrace if fortune favored them. With hearts pounding, they ventured into the night, the biting cold a stark contrast to the heat of their determination. The snow, once a barrier, now muffled their movements, allowing them to approach the distracted gang undetected. As they navigated the treacherous expanse, a fierce resolve strengthened their bond. Their luck held as they neared the encampment. The outlaws were preoccupied, their internal conflicts offering the precious distraction that Sam and Lu Yu desperately needed. But fate, unpredictable and wild as the land they traversed, had other plans. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the area, toppling one of the tents and prompting shouts of surprise. In the chaos, one of the gang members caught sight of the figures emerging from the snow and raised the alarm. "Now," Sam hissed, urgency propelling them forward. They broke into a sprint, racing against the howling wind, the gang's shouts ringing in their ears. Gunfire cracked through the night, sharp reports that pierced the storm's roar. Ducking and weaving, Sam and Lu Yu returned fire, their movements synchronized in a dance of survival. Each step they took was a battle against the elements and the relentless threat behind them. The snow around them was churned into a frenzy of white and red, the chaos of the skirmish painting a grim tapestry on the landscape. But still, they pressed on, driven by a force stronger than fear, refusal to be broken by the harsh realities of their world. In the midst of the battle, something profound ignited between Sam and Lu Yu. Every glance, every touch of their combined struggle, whispered of a connection that defied the divisions of their pasts. It was an unspoken promise that transcended words, a commitment forged in the crucible of adversity. Gradually, their determination carved a path into the heart of the storm. They found themselves standing on a ridge overlooking the battlefield, where the gang's movements blurred into the swirling snow. The storm, in its chaotic symmetry, seemed almost to embrace them. They paused for a moment, their breaths mingling in the cold, their eyes meeting in an unspoken acknowledgement of their shared triumph. The battle behind them, they turned their gaze to the horizon, where the first light of dawn broke through the storm's lingering grip. The sky was painted with shades of hope, the promise of a new beginning casting its light over the snow-covered expanse. In that moment, standing side by side against the world, Sam and Luyu knew that while the challenges of the frontier lay ahead, they would face them together. Their hearts, once isolated by circumstance and tradition, now beat in harmony, bound by a love that had proven unyielding in the face of all odds. Here, amidst the thawing snows of the harsh Colorado winter, they had found their refuge not only from the storm but in each other, crafting a testament to the timeless bond of forbidden love. As the sun began its descent, painting the storm-torn landscape with a somber glow, the igloo morphed into a sanctuary of hope amidst desolation. Inside, the embers of a small fire fought valiantly against the cold, casting flickering shadows that danced on the icy walls. The cowboy and the Apache woman, huddled together, found a strange comfort in the warmth of each other's presence. Their fight for survival had unfolded like the pages of a harrowing tale, or stretching into an eternity marked by the clash of steel and the echo of gunfire. Yet, with the danger past, a new, quieter conflict brewed within the icy chambers of their haven, the battle within their hearts. The cowboy, eyes weary yet softened by an unspoken admiration, watched her as she tended to the fire. Her face, illuminated by the golden glow, revealed a strength crafted by resilience and grace. He was drawn to her no longer just a storm-tossed stranger, but a force that demanded his recognition. Her eyes, once fierce under the burden of injustice, now spoke of a wariness tempered by a flicker of curiosity and, perhaps, the possibility of acceptance. Against the backdrop of a world that demanded their separation, a strange harmony had formed between them. They shared more than the bond of battle. There was an unyielding thread of understanding woven through their silence. This connection, though delicate and unspoken, was as real as the snow beneath their feet. "Why did they leave you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper against the whispering wind outside. The Apache woman paused, her gaze not leaving the fire. "Love," she said simply, "a love they could not understand." Her voice carried the weight of exile, yet there was a hint of defiance that did not escape him. Intrigued, he leaned closer, seeking her story, a narrative that had been muted by the storms of prejudice and tradition. "We all have our seasons of exile," he replied, his words resonating with experience. "Mine was self-imposed." She looked up, meeting his eyes with an intensity that surprised him. "And what drove you out into the cold?" "A ghost," he confessed, his voice raw with honesty. "A memory I could neither hold nor release." In the fragile tranquility of their shelter, words became bridges, crossroads of the lives they had lost and the dreams they dared to dream anew. The silence that followed was not empty, but instead a space filled with a rare understanding. She, a woman betrayed by her own, found solace in the cowboy's shadow. He, a man haunted by the past, saw in her a beacon to a future unwritten. Outside, the storm's fury dwindled to a whisper, the snow falling like a gentle benediction on the battered earth. The cabin of ice, a fortress of necessity, had become a womb for something tender, something fragile yet undeniable. As night fell, the cowboy laid a gentle hand on her shoulder, a gesture of respect and promise. "We might have lost our tribes," he began, his voice a quiet storm amidst the silence. "But what if, together, we could forge a new one?" Her eyes softened, the firelight dancing within their depths. In the vulnerability of that moment, amid the remnants of violence and the onset of peace, a tentative smile broke across her face. It was a smile that bore witness to the birth of hope, a smile that sealed a silent promise between them. In that makeshift igloo, surrounded by the vast, unforgiving wilderness, they crafted a bond, not easily broken, one that defied the world outside. Daylight spread across the snow, revealing a path cleared by the storm. As they stepped beyond their sanctuary, hand in hand, the world unfolded before them, a canvas of endless possibilities. In each other, they had found salvation from the tempest of the night. Each step they took was not just a stride into the uncertain embrace of the frontier, but a testament to the timeless force that is love and emotion, as fierce and untamed as the land they traversed, yet gentle enough to ignite the dawn of a new beginning. Together, they ventured forward, leaving behind a trail of footprints that whispered secrets of survival, resilience, and a love born amidst the carnage. As the storm's fury finally relented, the first gentle light of dawn caressed the snow-draped landscape, transforming the harsh world into a spectacle of pristine white. The cowboy and the Apache bride stood side by side, their breath mingling in the cold air, their hearts bound by the extraordinary events of the night. They were weary but unbowed, united by a shared destiny that neither had foreseen. The cowboy, whose rugged exterior hid a soul forged by the trials of the frontier, looked at her with newfound understanding. The Apache bride, resilient and wise beyond her years, met his gaze with equal intensity. Together, they had defied the wrath of both nature and men, and together, they had survived. As the sun crept higher and the chill of night gradually gave way to the day's light, they knew they needed to leave the snowbound haven that had sheltered them from the world. But before they journeyed forth into whatever awaited them, there was an unspoken need to make sense of the bond that had formed between them. Sitting by the remnants of their campfire, the cowboy spoke first, his voice as rough as the terrain he'd traversed. "This land takes much, but last night it gave me something precious," he said, his eyes locked with hers. "In you, I found a kindred spirit, someone with the same fight against the odds." The Apache bride nodded, her heart full. "You saw me as a person, not just a tribeswoman left to the mercy of the storm. In your eyes, I wasn't a castaway, but someone worth saving. For that, I am grateful." Their conversation was punctuated by the gentle rustle of the wind through the snow-laden pines. It was a symphony of nature's resilience, echoing their own. Their journey from the mountain would lead them back into a world that might not easily accept their union. The cowboy had long been a drifter, familiar with the wide expanses and solitary trails of the West. The Apache bride belonged to a people who had long fought to hold on to their lands and their way of life, threatened by the encroaching settlers and their laws. "We're two souls from different worlds," she remarked, awareness tinged with sadness. "The road will not be easy." "Ain't nothing been easy about this life," the cowboy replied with a reassuring grin. "But I reckon we make a pretty good team, you and me. We've already faced the worst the night can throw at us. We can face what the day's got to." Their resolve would soon be tested. As they descended into the valley, the remnants of the gang they had bested sought retribution. What should have been a serene escape from the high altitudes turned into a nerve-wracking chase. In the face of danger, their bond was further strengthened. The cowboy's sharp instincts and the Apache bride's keen understanding of the land allowed them to outsmart their pursuers. It was a perilous game of cat and mouse among the white-capped mountains, each challenge fortifying their commitment to each other. "We fought our way here, together," the cowboy whispered as they hid beneath the cover of a rocky outcrop. "And together, we'll find our place, whatever it takes." Eventually, the wilderness they once feared became their ally. The land, in its vastness, offered pathways unknown to those who weren't acquainted with its hidden routes. The couple used these paths to their advantage, slipping away from harm like shadows in the morning fog. With their pursuers left far behind, they descended into a town that sat on the edge of the frontier town, not unlike many others, yet holding the promise of a new beginning. Among strangers, they could craft a story anew. Their presence in the town drew curiosity and scrutiny in equal measure, yet their courage and tenacity soon won them allies. The cowboy found work among the ranchers, his skills with horses and cattle proving invaluable. The Apache bride, with her knowledge of herbs and healing, gained the respect of the townsfolk who came to value her wisdom. Their life together was not without its struggles. Prejudice and ignorance often reared their heads, but every challenge was met with the resolve that had seen them through the storm. Slowly, they wove themselves into the fabric of the community, their story no longer one of forbidden love, but of enduring partnership. The new dawn had indeed brought hope and a future once unimaginable, and as each day unfolded, the cowboy and the Apache bride lived as a testament to the power of love, a bond defying all convention in a land where survival was the only constant. Their journey, like the land they now called home, was endless, etched with trials and triumphs, but always moving forward. In each other, they had found solace and strength, love as untamed and beautiful as the Wild West itself.